We do have a victim statement that Trish is going to read for us before we bring him in, so we're going to do that now.
Okay.
I'm writing this letter to you and the board to explain why I feel Jacob Bailey should not be released from his sentence early. I fought over 2 years to get him put away so that I can receive the justice I deserve. The entire time I was waiting for this, he was constantly harassing me and trying to make me look and feel like I was doing something wrong. I strongly believe that if he is released, he will continue to do so. During the process of waiting for his trial, I found other women who had similar experiences with Jacob. One of the females who has contacted me said she was underage at the time he was wanting to meet up with her, sending nude pictures of himself, which I will send you. I have suffered physically. We have all suffered mental and emotional damage from Jacob that cannot be repaired. The other female who was an ex of his contacted me saying he wanted to kidnap her and do as he pleased with her. I have had others who were happy. Pardon me. I have had others who were happy and supported me about him being sent away, feeling safe in this community. He has not been sent away long enough. I believe he deserves to be there long term because I have not mentally recovered from the trauma he had put on me, remembering everything I have gone through. He has no remorse. He only thought about himself. He is selfish. He only cared about not going to jail and not seeing his son. He did not care about what he did to me. I have more depression, more anger because of it. Impacted me and my relationship with someone I love because of the trauma I had gone through ending my relationship. I am going to live with that trauma for the rest of my life while he barely gets punished for his actions. I strongly believe deep down in my heart, he does not deserve to be set free and stay in prison for a few more years. This is what I ask of you and the parole board. Thank you. We are ready to bring him in now.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are about to watch yet another frustrating Iowa parole hearing. Now, I'm going to share this with you now because you wouldn't know by watching it without this information. He was given a slap on the wrist just a year earlier, 5-year sentence, but 3-year probation, the entire sentence suspended. He violated that sentence and is now just in prison for 1 year and already up for parole. I'll unpack it with what details we have at the end.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jacob Bailey. My number is 6727696.
Thank you. My name is Meredith Lamberti, and here with me are my colleagues Susie Wynock and Jesse Rincon. We're the 3-member panel of the Board of Parole who are going to be interviewing you this morning. Before we get started, there are a couple of things that I want to go over with you so you know what to expect today. So the first thing that's important for you to know is that this Zoom that we're on is considered a public forum. And what that means is that members of the public or the media, they can listen to your interview, but they can't participate in it. But because they can listen, it's important that you know we might discuss some personal and confidential information today. And that includes, but isn't limited to, things like your medical history, mental health history, your treatment history, or other possible confidential information. So do you understand that those are some things that we might talk about this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what's going to happen is that each of the 3 of us might have some questions for you, and we'll start with our questions first. And then once we're done with our questions, that's when you'll have the chance to tell us anything else that you would like for us to know, or tell us anything that you might have prepared for us today. And then once you've had the chance to make a statement, then the 3 of us are going to go into our deliberation where we discuss what our decision is going to be. And we'll do that here on the Zoom. So you'll be able to listen to that discussion as we're having it. And then once we reach a final decision, I'll turn back to you. I'll deliver the decision. I'll explain anything about it that might be confusing. And then that will end our interview for the day. Okay?
All right.
Are you ready to get started?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, why don't we start by having you give us, a brief but detailed explanation of the crime that you committed that led to you coming to prison.
I sexually assaulted Miss Turner. I digitally and vaginally penetrated her, causing damage to her both physically and mentally.
And it looks like you completed SOTP and recently, just here in the spring, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you tell us about some of the things that you learned about yourself and your crime while you were in SOTP?
I learned I learned that I personally have I personally have problems. Um, I learned that sorry. I learned about consent and that even when someone is, it seems as if they're giving consent, that they're being passively compliant. Therefore, they're not consenting. They're just afraid and can't. Uh, They can't respond properly. And I also learned how to properly communicate with people instead of being passive or aggressive, to be um, assertive. So, like, actually talking to someone instead of just, all right, this is what you want, this is what I want, this is what we're gonna do. Actually communicating with people and uh, I learned a lot about myself through the course, about my schemas and not allowing myself to look upon things in a very negative aspect. I've found the positive side through things.
What were some of your schemas that you were able to identify in treatment?
Isolation, um, not saying no to people, agreeing to everything, drug abuse.
So you mentioned earlier, learning about consent and when people are maybe not verbally saying no, but they're not consenting. Can you tell us some signs that you're aware of to be able to identify when somebody is not consenting to a sexual act?
Normally, they're not talking or they're pushing away, physically pushing you away. Um, Sometimes, yeah, it'll be a verbal. It'll be verbal. Like, they won't tell you no, but they'll say it in other words. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Can you tell us what a healthy relationship would look like for you?
Good communication between me and a significant other. Um, Honestly, a schedule of what we're doing with life.
So it looks like your plan here is to start out at the work release. Can you tell us what your long-term plans are for yourself, as far as where you'd like to live and any goals that you have that you want to accomplish?
Truthfully, I'd like to own my own trailer. I plan on getting my license so I can drive. I would
Okay.
like to go back to college for culinary arts and business major.
Sorry, I didn't hear the end. You want to go back to college for what?
I would like to go to college for culinary arts and business major.
Oh, okay. I think those were all the questions that I have for you. I'm going to see if my colleagues have any questions. Susie?
I do. Thank you, Meredith. Good morning, Mr. Bailey.
Good morning.
So I heard your long-term goal. Maybe I'm having a little bit of trouble on this end, hearing you at times. Can you tell me, what do you expect to do for a job when you go to work release, or if you were moved forward to work release?
I plan on getting a job in factory.
Okay. What factory do you have some thoughts about?
I'm thinking Nestle Purina or Kraft.
Okay. Who are your supports in the community?
It's my mom and dad.
Okay. And they live in the Davenport area?
They live in DeWitt, but my dad works in Davenport.
Does he work at one of those factories?
Yeah, he works at Nestle Purina.
Okay. What's your intention regarding your victim?
Please elaborate.
Yeah. So are you planning in your own mind to have contact? You understand there's no contact. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are.
There is a no contact order. I personally like to keep it that way. Like, I understand I caused problem to her and mental damage that will probably last her forever. So I hope to stay out of her life.
All right. Thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Bailey. My name is Jesse. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
I have a couple questions. How many times would you say you violated the no contact order?
I have not violated it.
No, before you were incarcerated.
Once I got incarcerated, I stopped. As soon as I was told there was a no contact order, I didn't talk to her.
I'm talking about before you were incarcerated. How many times did you violate the no contact order with the victim? Or did you?
I didn't,
Okay.
as I know.
No, I must have read something wrong. What can you assure the board that you won't violate the no contact order now? What can you do to make us comfortable that that's not going to happen?
I can make sure that I stay. I don't really plan on going back to my hometown, besides for visiting my family and stuff. And I know that's where she'd be. So that's a big reason why I plan on getting out of that area. And I also don't plan on having any, I don't associate with the people that associate with her. That's,
Okay. Are you currently in any type of relationships?
I am not.
You're not. So if you do find yourself in a relationship, what would you say to that person about your criminal history?
I would explain to them what I've done.
You have no problem with that?
I do not.
And do you have any problem if your PO was on GPS monitoring when you were out?
I do not have a problem with that.
I have no other question.
Any fault? All right, so Mr. Bailey, now is your time to tell us anything else that you'd like for us to know or anything that you might have prepared for us.
While I've been incarcerated, I've gotten my high set. Feels a solid accomplishment. Sorry. That is truthfully all I have.
Is there anything else that you'd like for us to know?
No, ma'am.
All right, so now's the time we're gonna go into our deliberation. So sit back, listen, we'll let you know what our decision is. Susie or Jesse, what are your thoughts on the recommendation of parole with a 10B to the work release for Mr. Bailey?
So I think a big part of this was mental health. And I think I'm a little more comfortable that he's been adhering to his medication. So I'll be in support of the DOC recommendation of work release with the codes PG, D3, 10B, 20B, 48, but TP after care and substance abuse.
Yeah, I'm going to support the department's recommendation as well. I thought this was a, good interview. That's goals. We understand what his short-term and long-term goals are regarding his stability with a job. His dad works at Purina. It sounds like there might be some helpfulness there. He understands what an NCO is. We've heard him say that. He's not ever been medicated before, according to what he shared. I think that could be a big change here that we could see as long as he understands and complies with the medication. So I'd be looking at a PG, D3, 10B, 20B, mental health, medication compliance, SOTP aftercare, substance abuse, and a 50A. And then I also wondered, I was trying to see here, and I guess I didn't ask the question whether or not the adult victim was also under the influence, or whether it was an 18 plus here.
I think I'm fine leaving that one off because I think that's more for people with like developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities. But I think the 50A and the substance abuse does make sense.
Okay.
So I'm also going to support this recommendation. This TDD's in next June, and then he goes on to his special sentence, which is just a 10-year special sentence. So we've got to determine it, about 4.5 years of that. So having some community supervision after completing SOTP successfully makes the most sense to me. So I have 10B, 20B, 40A for SOTP aftercare, substance abuse, mental health, medication compliance, and a 50A.
Yes, and I'd like to throw in there too, is that I looked at the SOTIPs and those were low.
Yep. All right, so Mr. Bailey, we are going to go ahead and grant your parole today. I'm going to explain to you all of those letters and numbers that we were throwing around. So when you leave, you'll have standard conditions of parole that everyone has. And then what the parole board does is we add additional special terms of parole, and that's what we were talking about. So the first one is a 10B, which means that you'll start out at the work release. The next one, the 20B, is no early discharge. So you're going to stay on parole until your TDD of June of 25, and then your special sentence will start on that date. So that's what that means. The 40A, that's treatment codes. So those are things that we'd like you to do out in the community. So SOTP aftercare, get a substance abuse evaluation, continue to address your mental health, and then continue to take the medications that you're prescribed. That doesn't mean that you're stuck with the one that you're taking right now, but it does mean if you want to make any changes that you need to do so, like with a doctor. And then the final one is a 50A, which is no drinking alcohol and no being places where alcohol is the primary activity. So places like liquor stores or bars. Do you have any questions for me about what any of that means?
No, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today.
Have a good day.
Take care.
Thanks, Christopher.
Thank you, guys.
So you really can't make it up. I mean, who cares about the victim in Iowa? Apparently, no one. Apparently, not the parole board. This is just insane. They don't even bring up the idea that he's serving time because he violated the probation, because he violated the little slap on the wrist that the judge gave him, which was just probation. He didn't have to serve a day in prison. But we'll go over his little record here. He violated it over and over and over again. He never registered. And then they said, you know what? You're going to get revoked. Or not even, you're going to be violated. It's not even revoked. He wasn't on parole. And they don't even bring it up. They don't even say, why didn't you register? They don't say, why did you violate? Nothing. You notice in his final statement, he doesn't apologize. He doesn't fake it. At least fake it. There's nothing there. And they say, is there anything else you want to say? No. Okay, great. You had a great interview. Good job, Jacob. Let's go. Off back into the public for you. You look completely safe. Your responses and robotic, inhuman lizard humanoid appearance at this parole board really makes us feel safe with you back in society. Unreal. I mean, what is wrong with this state? It's really upsetting to watch this. Iowa takes it to an entire new level of insanity, which just makes it like you just say, what is going on? Also makes me appreciate the states that I really, like even it makes me appreciate Connecticut. At least they're having like a conversation. The guy, the guy in the right, whatever his name is, the pink shirt, he says, well, what about those times that you violated your protective order? And he's like, I didn't violate a protective order. It's like, oh, my bad. I must have had my cases wrong. Like a few minutes earlier, the victim was talking about how he was stalking her for 2 years while he's trying to get him locked up. We just heard the victim impact statement. You can't make this stuff up. You just can't. This parole board's dangerous. Oh man, when they see this stuff being shown to the public, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if you know about this. I hate to give a self-fulfilling prophecy. I really shouldn't do this, but when I first started doing Louisiana, they got so upset when I covered their cases that they tried shutting me down, and they shut down the channel for like, I don't know, 3 months or something. It was on the news. I know a lot of you know about this, but a lot of you probably don't. And who knows what's going to happen. And we won because I was surprised we won. I didn't think that YouTube would side with a little Mandoo when it's like giant YouTube and the state of Louisiana versus Mandoo. But we had the DUI guy come in and step us and take the case pro bono, help fight it through YouTube. It wasn't through courts. It was all done through the YouTube stuff. It was scary. But people don't like when their dirty laundry is aired and when they see that the system's broken and that no one cares about the victims or the public. Just talk about safety. So, nothing in his interview made me feel safe. I mean, really lizard humanoid vibes. He has his first arrest when he's just 20 years old. And this is an arrest, so it's a driving, not driving with insurance, is my guess. And if you get arrested, you know that it's not, you're getting cuffed. This isn't like, I'm going to give you a warning, here's a ticket. Then he has this case, which comes up when he's, I guess, just turns about 21. And they let him plead guilty. And he was ordered to serve 5 years in prison and lifetime registry. But they suspended the sentence. So he didn't have to spend a day in prison. And he was going to have supervised probation. And a year after being given this gift, not even a year, 11 months, not even 11 months, 10 months and 20 days, he's arrested for driving without his license. And you say not a big deal. Well, I think it's a big deal because the guy is back in prison time and he shows zero self-preservation and impulse control to get into a car and drive. But they don't revoke him for that for whatever reason. He gets arrested 8/21/2023 for not registering, which is, I believe that's what interference with official acts are, which is not registering. And as you can see, the parole board, they don't bring it up. They don't bring up any of his registration. Are you going to register? Why didn't you register? What are you going to do to make sure you register? Nothing. What? Oh my gosh. You can't make it up. Anyways, you might not believe it if you didn't see it, but here you go. And this guy, who is not even 25 yet, is, well, let's see how long he lasts. And the victim, the survivor, who cares, right? Anyways, with that, we'll move to another frustrating Iowa parole hearing.
I grabbed her neck, I choked her, and I shoved my hand down her pants and attempted to have vaginal penetration.
Okay. How many victims do you have in total?
2.
We are about to watch another Iowa parole hearing for a man who was locked up just recently for doing something, well, I'll unpack with the details at the end, but there's a 17-minute period that it took to track him down for this parole hearing. I fast forward much of it, but I keep some of it because I thought it was interesting to share with you guys, and then we can maybe talk about it in the unpacking. That, let's jump.
Hi, JP. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hey,
Right. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
I was just checking in to see where you're at in your interviews. You're not ready for me already, are you?
Yeah, we are.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, we've been a little speedy this morning.
Understood. I'll go ahead and get the guys lined up. One moment, please.
No problem. The board will want to talk to you too, you know.
Oh, yes, check. Phillip Smith to Watson's office. Phillip Smith, Watson's office.
JP, is there anything we need to know, any updates about Mr. Smith?
As a younger offender, we had some hurdles to overcome where he didn't have much value for the procedures or the rules. But on the upside, he was willing to go ahead and follow the rules in general and stay away from a lot of trouble and complete treatment. And so, yeah, we were in support of a release.
Okay. And that remains a release, to work release in Marshalltown, I think.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Alex, do you have any questions?
I do not.
I don't.
All right, JP, we'll just wait. He can come on in when he gets there.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, JP.
Yes, Watson. Would you have a clerk check around the unit for Phillip Smith? We need to go to Watson's office. The board's ready to see him. Yes, please. Thank you. Second page, Phillip Smith, Watson's office. Second page, Phillip Smith, Watson's office. Time for your interview. Yes, Watson. Sorry, just checking to see if the clerk is able to find Smith. Where's he working at? Okay, thank you so much. Yes, Watson here. Did Phillip Smith, was he at work at this time? Okay, thank you so much. Oh, we're just calling to find Phillip Smith. He is the board patrol's ahead of schedule and ready for his interview. But I was told that the guys are pretty much out of there now. Okay, thank you. Okay, we've gone ahead and called over to the yard several times, also the unit and his work location. He has already left work, and so he's either en route or he's just arrived at the unit now to get a heads up. Do you have any other questions I might be able to assist with?
I don't think so. We know that it was super early, so no big deal.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Yeah, Batman Watson. Terry did say they were all clear for everybody, no one's there. The orderly, they did, we willing to do a walk around on Delta again, you go and check for Phillip Smith? Yeah, 10 minutes, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, you bet. Phillip Smith, to Watson's office. Interview is ready to go. Phillip Smith to Watson's office. Time for the interview. Phillip Smith, time for your interview. Watson's office. Phillip Smith, time for your interview. Watson's office. Phillip Smith, to Counselor Watson's office. Phillip Smith, time for your interview. Counselor Watson, right away. Phillip Smith, to Watson's office. Phillip Smith, time for your interview. To Watson's office, right away. Yes, Watson. Calling to see if maybe the kid doesn't reach the drum so well that Phillip Smith might be there. Fair enough. I called over to the library. Is it currently closed? Hey. Hey, thank you so much. Okay. Want to have a seat right here? The board of parole is online for you. You just want to go ahead and state your name. Phillip Smith. I guess they might have gone ahead and logged out.
Good morning.
Sorry, video.
How are ya?
I'm doing well.
Beat our
You been
video.
working this morning?
I just got out, yes.
Yeah, okay. We can appreciate that. So we're here today to do an interview. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. So let me introduce you. Well, first, can you give us your name and number?
Phillip Smith, 644-8196.
Thank you, sir. So this is a 3-member panel of the Iowa Board of Parole. Joining me today are Meredith Lamberti and James Rincon. I'm Susie Wynock. I want to let you know we're in a public forum, which means the public and the media can listen in, but they're unable to participate with us today. Also, I want to let you know that during the course of this interview, it's possible that we're going to be talking about your personal and confidential information that isn't necessarily limited to, but could include your medical history, your mental health history, your treatment history, or other confidential information. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. You wish to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the process a little bit. There's 3 of us. We may each have questions for you. Once you've answered the questions, I'll then come to you and ask you, Mr. Smith, is there anything further you'd like for us to know? Anything you've prepared? Anything you've thought about? It'll be your opportunity to share with us. When you've completed that, you'll be able to see us and hear us as we go into a discussion about what we've read and what we've heard from you today. Once we have a decision, I'll come back. I'll deliver the decision to you, answer any questions you might have, and that concludes today's interview.
Okay.
All right. So why don't you talk to us about the crime that has you there in prison, and why we'd be seeing you today?
Sex abuse third, I believe was the crime.
Okay. Can you describe the crime to us? What happened?
It's very poor choices. I got really intoxicated and sexually harassed a young woman or sexually abused a young woman.
Okay, so what was going on in your life at the time of the crime?
A lot of free time, I suppose. Just poor relationship choices. Just poor choices in general, I suppose.
What did you do to your victim?
I grabbed her neck, I choked her, and I shoved my hand down her pants and attempted to have vaginal penetration.
Okay. How many victims do you have in total?
2.
I don't need names, but who were the victims? Were they people that you knew? How old were they?
Well, no, they weren't people that I knew.
Okay. How old were they?
18 and 17, I believe.
I'm gonna move to my colleagues to see if they have follow-up questions. Meredith?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Smith. So it looks like your plan is to start out at Marshalltown work release. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you plan to do for work or what you think that you can do for work?
Well, you can do just about anything for work, but I don't really know the area all that well. I plan to just find a place that'll accept me. Boots on the ground, apply.
Okay. What's your work history like?
My background's mainly in construction.
Okay.
I've got worked a few factory jobs too. About the gist of it.
And then what are your plans after the work release?
After work release, independent living.
What?
Independent living.
Okay. Do you want to stay in Marshalltown or is there somewhere else that you'd like to go?
Marshalltown for now, but eventually I'd like to travel.
Okay. What are some of your goals for yourself, things that you'd like to accomplish?
Can I say getting out of here?
Sure, that's fair. Long term, what are some of your goals?
Yes. I don't know not quite how to put this, but cleaning up my record, I guess. Trying to get away from the system. Having a clean record from this point forward.
Okay.
Just, yeah, that's about it. Mainly, anyway.
Okay. And then what about any support system that you have out in the community?
I have a few good friends.
Okay. Are you close to them? Do you talk to them now?
Yes.
What about any hobbies or anything that you do to fill your free time?
Hobbies. None that I can really think of at the moment. I don't really, my hobbies are more like fixing things around the house. That's pretty much what I do in my free time.
Okay. All right. I think That's good. That's just, looking for things that you can fill your free time with that, are good pro-social things or things that'll keep you out of trouble. And that's a good one. So I think those were all the questions I had for you. So thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. Jesse, do you have questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Smith. I'm Jesse. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too, sir.
Thank you. So back to the victim, because you spent the night on that night, correct? At the victim's
Yeah.
house?
Yes,
Okay, so how did you know the victims?
I met them earlier the day before.
Oh, so there wasn't no long-term relationship. It was very recent.
Yes,
Okay. Then help us understand on the criminal complaint, it stated that you continued to pursue the victim the next morning. If it wasn't invited, what pushed you to keep pursuing?
excuse me?
It was not invited, why did you keep pursuing the victim the next day? Because it stated the next morning that you pursued the victim.
It's the next morning that I pursued the victim.
Yeah, because you stayed there, correct? You woke up
Yep.
there. So did you pursue the victim or did you sexually abuse the victim the second day when you woke up?
The next morning, yes.
You did. What made you do that? I mean, were you still intoxicated? Were you?
Slightly, but it was more so I don't want to say misunderstanding, but I guess I figured since I was there the next morning that everything was okay.
My last question for you is, after completing SOTP, what are some of the cognitive distortions and risk factors you identified?
My cognitive distortions were thinking that that was okay, acceptable behavior. And my risk factors, one would be drinking. And let's see, not asking for consent, yeah.
Would you say being around minors would be one?
No, I don't think so.
I have no further questions. Thank you for your time, Mr. Smith. I appreciate it.
Jesse, Meredith, do you have any follow-up questions?
I don't think so.
All right. So, Mr. Smith, now's the opportunity for you to share with us anything further you'd like for us to know today before we go into deliberation.
Pretty much it.
Okay. Now we're going to go into deliberation. You're going to be able to see and hear our discussion. Once we have a decision, I'll come back, deliver that to you, and then answer any questions you might have, and that'll conclude our interview.
Okay.
Yeah, I can go ahead and support this. To the Marshalltown work release. He's completed his SOTP. He's got the lifetime special sentence for code. So we've got the 10B, the no early discharge. I think, he did disclose that he thinks one of the victims was 17. So I think adding that no contact with minors makes sense. In the 40A, looking at SOTP aftercare, substance abuse, and then a 50A. Those are what I see.
All right. Thank you, Meredith. Jesse?
Yeah, I can be in support of this release as well, the work release. Same codes Meredith said. As well, I think the 28 is important to put on there. But it's my hope that he continues learning more about himself and understand the boundaries.
So just a couple things. One is that we'll want to add the 20B to this, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The other one is, Jesse, you had said that you thought the 20A was important, or did I not hear that?
I'm sorry, the 38.
Okay.
38, I meant the 38.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yep, no problem at all. All right, I agree as well, and I'm going to go ahead and deliver our decision. So, Mr. Smith, we thought this was a good interview with insight. We see that you completed your SOP. and where you're at with your scoring. And today we're going to support the department's recommendation. We're going to move you forward, and I'm going to explain all of the codes that you are hearing us talk about. So it's a PGD3 with a 10B, which means you will proceed to work release. While you're there, we're interested in a couple of things. And that would be for you to participate in programming SOTP aftercare, so to build off of what you've learned and participated in, as well as substance abuse. So we think that it's fair that you get a baseline, understand where you are regarding your use of substances, okay?
Okay.
In addition to that, the 20B means that there's no early discharge of your sentence. So you are on paper for the sentence itself until June 18 of 2026. At that time, you'll then convert over to your special sentence, which is a lifetime special sentence. Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. And then 30A means that there'll be no contact with any minor child unless it's approved. So that would be a discussion with you and your parole officer. But at this point, the Board of Parole acknowledges what you said during this interview about someone being possibly 17 years old. So we've added that code. So there is no contact with minors unless approved. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Lastly, understanding the substance abuse issue here, we're going to add the 50A. The 50A is an alcohol prohibition. So that means that you are not to drink any alcohol whatsoever. And in addition, we think it's in your best interest and the public's that you do not frequent any type of liquor store, and that you also don't go into any type of bar that doesn't sell food. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about the codes?
No.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we were able to provide some clarity and that you understand everything, and we wish you all the best. This concludes today's interview.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you, JP.
You got it. You guys have a great day.
Take care.
Well, if you haven't realized by now, it's a trend in Iowa where they just hand out parole hearings like hotcakes. They don't give really, there's just nothing there. There's no substance. There's no attention to victims. There's nothing. It's frustrating, especially when you have a victim impact speech. I couldn't get away from the vibe that this person might be. I'm not a doctor. I don't make, the algorithms. I'm not a PhD. I don't go to whatever Ivy League school. I'm just a simple Mandoo. But if I was speculating on a situation like this, I might think he checks all the boxes of someone who's antisocial. Well, what do you do for fun? Nothing. What did you do? I don't know. It's like a different type of antisocial, I guess. And his record, which we can go through, he's so young, but he has a DV in 2017. He has a criminal mischief third degree in 2018. These are arrests. He has violation of a no contact protective order in 2019, criminal mischief again in 2019. These are different dates. So these are different. It's not like they stock them all on the same date. These are months apart. Public intoxication 2020, and then finally this one in 12/2/2021. And he went to trial. And he had a jury trial, which they found him guilty. Now, they don't go into the details on this jury trial, except that kind of like more of it. Now, this was filed on August 9, 2023. Think about it, that he's getting out on August 1st, 2024, a year after he even filed his appeal, and he's out on parole. Not to mention, if you heard the guy at the beginning, he's like, yeah, he wasn't doing great in prison. They don't talk about write-ups. They don't talk about discipline. Also, I don't know enough about this stuff, but the idea that it took 17 minutes to track him down, and they didn't say, was it because of you? Was it because of the system? I don't know. But what I do know is in all of the thousands, literally thousands, maybe 3,000 maybe more. Parole hearings that we've covered in Louisiana, in Connecticut, and of course not Illinois. They're actually really strict Illinois. I know if you haven't seen an Illinois hearing, they run things like the military. I mean, the strict the it's a whole different level. We've never seen anyone disappear for 17 minutes. We've never waited 17 minutes to see someone. Every other parole hearing and prison runs like a tight ship. So again, I don't know if this is something to it's just a coincidence or if it's actually insight into how things are run in Iowa, even on a deeper level at this correctional facility. I don't know. 17 minutes seems like a long time to not be able to get in touch with someone. You heard him how many times he went on that walkie-talkie. That seems like broken communication, something that is unacceptable. And again, when he showed up, there was no accountability, quite nothing. It was just like, yeah, I understand you were at work. We were running early. It's like, anyways, so that's my soapbox on that. Those of you who have experience being in prison or working in prisons, you can let me know or let us know in the comment section if we have a reason for concern or not. I would appreciate that. Now, so in his, and of course, thank you, Richard, for putting this all together. So in his appeal, what his appeal was, and he's like a child, which is, this appeal says everything that we just saw. Now he appeals after the trial happens, and before deliberation, he gets up to the judge and he says, I want a new attorney. It's just like that doesn't work that way. So he was charged by trial information as amended with second-degree burglary, second-degree. My kids are next to me, so you can do this, and with intent to commit this. The evidentiary portion of ensuing trial concluded in 1 day. So it was a 1 day trial. I love how these trials can be 1 day. It's like, and I mean, for true crime people, we understand that. But in movies, it's like, you might think, wow, I'm going to have this whole trial. But really, it's just a pretty quick affair. The evidentiary portion of the ensuing trial concluded in 1 day. The following morning, after the parties in court completed the jury instructions, but before closing arguments, the following exchange occurred. So it was a day and a morning, I guess. The court. It's been brought to the court's attention that the defendant has a matter that he wishes to assert. Mr. Smith, do I understand that you are now requesting a different attorney? The defendant, if that's necessary, yes, sir. The court, I'm sorry, what? The defendant, if that's necessary, yes, sir. The court, why is it necessary? The defendant, I don't believe I've been given proper representation. And I know I'm sounding like a robot now, but I mean, just his voice is like, like there was no, like if you could think of a charisma-less voice, it was there. The court, okay, I asked you, we've had a couple of different hearings, both in regard to the proposed plea bargain, which you turned down, and regarding your decision not to testify. Oh, he didn't testify, which you would say is smart not to testify, except, I don't know, in these kind of cases, you might want to, I don't know. That's a good question. They say never testify. And you indicated, and I'm sorry if the kids here in the background, it's summertime and they're not in camp, so they're with me right now. And you indicated, as I recall, that you had enough time to visit with Mr. And so many of you put in the comment section that you don't mind hearing little voices, so that's why I'm continuing. And you indicated, as I recall, that you had enough time to visit with Mr. Oldenburg, your attorney, and that you were satisfied with his services. We are now moments away from an injury from the jury coming in. The defendant, when was I asked that? The court, I'm sorry. You feel this, judge. The defendant, when was I asked this, sir? The court, we had 2 hearings that you participated in where you turned down a plea agreement. You turned the opportunity to testify. I think where you turned the opportunity to testify, and you stated it was your decision that you had enough time to visit your attorney, and as I understood, you were satisfied with your attorney. Now, what is your concern right now? The defendant, my concern is that I was not satisfied with my attorney. Remember, this is right before the jury's about to deliberate. I was not satisfied with my attorney. The question to be was, I satisfied with the effort as far as the plea agreement, and that's it. The court, okay, well, sir, we have a jury waiting to make a decision. I think my concern is this is just a delay tactic in your part. The defendant, this is the court. Sir, let me talk. We are going to proceed and have the jury decide this case. All that remains, Mr. Olderberg, to do. Guys, quiet for a second, okay? Mr. Olberg to do at this point is to make closing arguments to the jury, and the case will be in the jury's hands. There will be some options. One thing that could happen, not really an option, but the possible outcome might be found not guilty of all charges and set free. And then changing attorneys becomes moot. If the jury convicts you and you continue to believe that you are not adequately presented, there are methods, including post-conviction relief, to assert ineffective assistance of counsel. But at this late stage of the proceeding, after having these two previous hearings with you, I am not going to declare a mistrial, which is what I would have to do and send the jury come to the point. Somebody else to represent you in this case, and I will try it over again. We are going to proceed with the verdicts. There is going to be a ruling, again, blah, blah, blah. So, following the closing arguments, the jury found Smith guilty of lesser included offense in each charge. I love how that happened. It's like, he's like, okay. And then, boom, guilty. But they found him guilty on the lesser charges. So they went to trial for full things. So, maybe he seems to have clearly won. He went to trial. He's found guilty on lesser charges. Who knows what plea deal they were going to give him. And he's out in 2 years anyways. And he's already wants to clean his record. Okay. The court later merged the first conviction with the second, and Smith appealed following the imposition of sentence. On appeal, Smith argues the trial court erred in failing to allow him to be heard regarding his request to substitute counsel. Can you imagine this is what what jailhouse lawyer, how many soups did he have to pay the jailhouse lawyer to write this ridiculous appeal? How many honey buns? What do you think? 2 soups and 2 honey buns, or was it more? Specifically, he complains that instead of conducting the inquiry in his dissatisfaction with the counsel, the court refused to let him elaborate because when the judge caught him off. And I think, again, this is something about his personality. He felt so offended that the judge didn't let him finish talking. That's just my guess. Like, for someone to write this kind of appeal, he was referring to his decision to refuse the plea deal and decide not to testify, and then ruled against him. In response, the state points out that Smith later abandoned his request for substitute counsel, specifically after the jury returned its verdict. The court advised Smith of his rights to file post-trial motions in relation to following exchange occurred. Anyways, I kind of digress with this. I'll put the link in the description. It's pretty clear that it's just a ridiculous appeal. And we don't have other details, though. There's no details of exactly what happened in the crime. Of course, we don't get that in this parole hearing. The victims didn't speak. If there were a letter, we weren't told. I assume the victims would have had to have taken the stand and take a trial. In the trial, and then you put in all that cost, all that burden on the jury, all that everything, and he was incarcerated November 5th, 2022, and he gets out June of 2024. So it was like a year and 2 months, and he had a good time anyway of 2026. So his full sentence was a 4-year sentence. It's funny what prosecutors will take to court and what they won't. But I guess they didn't give him a good enough plea deal, or he just refused any plea deal they offered. But this parole board, they're ridiculous. They coddled him, no accountability, just it's great, let him out. And it's like, I would love to know how many write-ups he had because of what was initially said. And if you think that he's going to get out and just be successful and not come back. I hope you're right, but I have a bridge to sell you. These are the classic kind of stories that you hear about where you're like, how did you let him out on parole? But I don't know. I'm just a Mandoo. I'm just speculating on a situation like this. And with that, we'll go.